Hello, welcome to the Trading Without Borders podcast with Omobi, your host. The Trading Without Borders podcast focuses on creating awareness and simplifying technical aspects of the African Continental Free Trade Area, among other trade topics in Africa, by highlighting the opportunities, challenges, and impacts on Africans and African businesses. This is episode 119, and we will continue with our discussions on the AfCFTA Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade. That's the AfCFTA Draft Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade. We have been exploring the provisions of the protocol and how the state parties are to support the participation of women and youth in intra-African trade. So let's move right into today's discussion. We are going to dive into intellectual property provisions and participation in formal trade activities by women and youth in trade. So intellectual property provision is under Article 14, and the other one, that's participation in formal trade, is under Article 16. So let's look at what the protocol provides. So for the benefit of those that are not aware, there is also an intellectual property protocol that is made provisions on how the intellectual property of applicants or African business engaged in intra-African trade will be protected. So under the Women and Youth in Trade Protocol, there's also a provision on how the state parties will assist women in protecting intellectual property rights. And so let's look at what Article 14 provides. So the protocol provides that state parties are to, in accordance with relevant provisions on intellectual property protocol, they are to establish mechanisms that will assist women and youth in trade in the registration and use of their intellectual property rights. So trade measures are to put measures that will assist women and youth in trade in registering and using their intellectual property rights. State parties are also to provide capacity building for women and youth in trade in various sectors to effectively utilize and protect their intellectual property rights. So capacity building for women and youth to utilize and protect their IP rights as well. The protocol also provides that state parties are to facilitate affordable access to resources and knowledge in terms of intellectual property rights for women and youth in trade. Moving on to Article 16, we are going to look at how the state parties are to promote and ensure the significant number of women and youth that are involved in informal cross-border trade will be moved into the formal cross-border trade. What does the protocol provide? Let's dive into that. State parties are to, that's in accordance with their national laws and regulations, they are to take measures that will promote the participation of women and youth in trade in formal cross-border trade. There are a significant number of women and youth that are engaged in informal cross-border trade across our borders in Africa. So state parties are to take measures that will help them to move from trading informally to trading formally. So what is the next thing they are meant to do? They are also to simplify documentation, procedures, and processes for small-scale cross-border trade. So that means make it easy, make the processes simple. If you want to move the small-scale cross-border trade from informal to formal, the processes, the documentation that will be required should be simple, should be simplified. That means even if you want to register them, like for example, we want to register them, give them a formal registration process. The processes should be simplified. The documentation required should be simplified as well. The next one, the state parties are also to agree and implement guidelines to simplify documentation procedures and processes that will be developed by the Committee on Trading Goods upon the adoption of this protocol by taking into account national, regional, and continental specific context. State parties are also to enforce trade facilitation instruments and other related international instruments trade instruments to support women and youth in small-scale cross-border trade that help them to be able to trade, to be able to export some of their products across Africa. So state parties are to enforce enforce trade facilitation instruments that's within Africa, outside of Africa, international instruments that support trade facilitation. Let's look at one more that state parties are to put in place and strengthen mechanisms that will assist small-scale cross-border traders to comply with the simplified requirements. So it is not just about making the processes simple, they are also to put in place and strengthen the mechanisms or measures that would help them or that will assist the small-scale cross-border traders to be able to comply with the simplified requirements. Okay, I'm going to stop here for today. So, and as usual, the podcast is for educational purposes only. If you need expert advice or if you need information on how to enter and access and expand your operations across Africa, you can reach out to me. My name is Omobola Adekola on LinkedIn. You can send me a message. Thank you. Until next week, I say to you, bye-bye.